journeyman knife series, we concentrated on slashing. And now in the tradesman levels, we work some more on stabbing and also the pummel strike. And level 4 of the tradesman series is talking about reverse grip stabbing. And let me demonstrate first up front the way this kind of works out. I'm in a very, very comfortable stance and I'm in this reverse grip. When we do the stabs, we have to talk about the worries about the penetration of the body. And sometimes you can have what we call a pluck stab that is almost coming out as quickly as it's going in. And that tends to not penetrate and be more devastating, but it helps you evacuate the blade. Another thing you can do is going to be a twist. No matter how deep it might be, you can come in, twist the knife, and open up the wound canal. If there's bones or skeletal structure problems, you can twist the knife, possibly breaking some of the ribs or whatever problems you have in trying to do that. And so you have these, typically speaking, if you have a problem evacuating the blade, it's in deep, which can happen, not just in the body, but in the clothing. One good thing about the reverse grip is it can be used as a handle. And you can pull the body, manipulate it, throw it. Or I advise you, just if it's in so deep, just let it go. And then this way you don't have to you fight with your hand-to-hand combat skills to finish the attack, because if you can't get it out, he can't get it out to get back at you. Then you try to retract it after the fact. Let's take a look now. Let me just show you these. I'm in a reverse grip. Sometimes the thumb on the pommel is a big strategy that you can use to manipulate the knife. But here's a high hook for 1 and 2. Then we have about mid-height, 3, and then 4. Then we have low. I like to get down on one knee. So there's 6 right there, the outside of the body, very similar to what we've done before. Number 7 is a reverse grip, groin or lower intestine or whatever the target is, attack. It's sort of like a back fist in many martial arts, 8 is any kind of a mad rush attack that comes down. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you're 1 or you're 2 o'clock, somewhere around there. 9 is a high stab. Solar plexus up, chest, whatever. Retract a little, and 10 is a lower stomach, intestine type of stab. A lot of thrust. It's a quick snap. Very good stab. This hand, always up in the window of combat, as we've previously discussed in other videos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. What we do on the right side, we have to do on the left side. We'll start our numbering system, from the lefty perspective. Comfortable stance again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unlucky 7, 8, 9, and then 10. We need to take a look at these things from a knife ground fighting perspective, and we'll talk through this. He's going to give the high 2 hooking stabs, and then in the middle 2, middle height. Notice the rocking and rolling of the body, and as low as he can get, he'll give the 2 low ones. Then try to get the best stab like this, and then now we have the mad rush attack, very common for ground fighting. And then finally the final 2 stabs. And that's the ground application. You would do it both left and right-handed. And finally, with every command and mastery movement, we do them standing, we do them right and left-handed. Sometimes when it's appropriate, we have to do all 4 corners. But we also do them on the ground and walking. Because in combat, mobility is everything. So just kind of watch me as I take small steps here. But there's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Just so that you can do this in motion, because most likely you'll be having an orderly retreat or an advance charge, and you have to acclimate yourself to that balance and motion while working the knife. As with every command and mastery drill at each level, we have block and counters, counters to common blocks. Reflexive movements, whether the opponent has his knife up or his knife back. But when we do these, we break these down in isolated segments so that our first drill, the person does not have a knife. It's just practice for you. And what he will be doing is a reflexive high block, a reflexive high block, a reflexive low block, and a reflexive low block. Just same as we've done in the prior training levels. And this time you have a reverse grip. We must always be edge aware in that this particular training knife is symbolic of a sharp end down here. Some call it a false edge. Different people, different countries call it different things. But if you have a double-edged knife, it's great. Some of the most vicious edge weapon killers just have single-edged knives, such as the kukri and other weapons, and they take advantage of the total flat end. You must be edge aware of your knife. But in this case, in the cases of all the training knives you have now, they're either double-edged or the backside is half sharp, and it's perfect for this particular training drill. If we're standing here and our training partner is just going to give us the four corners, the first one is, of the big three we always show, is cut the block. And here's how it would apply. If I'm coming in to stab him and he reflexively blocks, I am going to cut the block. Remember we talked about the uncommitted slash? Well, it's kind of the uncommitted stab. We're going to get them, but if we have to do something else, we know we're prepared. We're kind of uncommitted in finishing it up. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. We'll turn this way here. There is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, that's just an isolated spot, a prepositional phrase inside a bigger sentence. Many times in the sentence, he's got a knife. We'll worry about that in a second. We're just goal-specific isolating skill. The second major one we always like to show is redirect on another line. We're going to get them, but we're partially committed to achieving this target spot, and we can problem solve and ad-lib something. So the first level of obstruction comes up, and I redirect on another line. First one comes up, I redirect on another line. The third corner comes up, damn! It's big things in the way. So I redirect on another line, and then finally I'm here, and I redirect on another line. The good thing about the reverse grip, not only can it be a handle, but as we just demonstrated, it has a back-cutting effect. So when we get that, for example, we get that high stab, many times to evacuate the wound, which shouldn't be a problem in a target like this, but we can twist and slash, which is a follow-up that appears later in the levels of progression. But you have a hand, if you go in to the body and it stays, it suddenly becomes a handle for takedowns and throws. If it goes into the body, like I said earlier, and you can't get it out, leave it there and fight like crazy. Take them down with your hand-to-hand combat skills, and if you can, take out the knife at this point. Now, in actual military combat, that can be very difficult because many times people have fallen, the stabbed enemy has fallen out of foxholes or into foxholes, or there's other people around and you don't have the time for such a removal. And that can be a problem depending on your environment. But at any rate, redirect, 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 and redirect. You will hear many myths and misunderstandings about, whether the reverse grip or the saber grip is better, and really the consummate knife fighter fights with both. And it sounds real cool to say, oh, watch out when the knife fighter is in the reverse grip because he really knows what he's doing. No, he knows about half of what he's doing. The other part is going to be the saber grip. So you must learn to fight left and right-handed, and you also must learn, saber and reverse grip fighting. And I like to come out with the edge out, as do most knife fighters. When we say come out, we often have to draw to a reverse grip, depending on your carry system. If you decide to carry a reverse grip, or if you draw to it, it is more militant and more aggressive to come out cutting than it is backside like this. This is almost a less than lethal approach. It appears at another level. But for generally speaking, if you're fighting for your life, put your teeth out front, put the razor out front. And this is kind of a timid, restrained grip when the edge is in. For, as we'll show in a second here, just one grip, one attack, which I'll emphasize for you, so commonly used and used as a basis for having the edge back. But the next area is going to be what we call knife invading or knife trapping hands. And so if I come in here and I see the block, I will use one of the 4 P's, pinning, passing, pulling, or pushing, to clear a path to get in and attack. And I'm using this big knife today as opposed to a tactical folder simulator or something, so that everybody can see it, But you can do these same things with a much smaller blade. Keep in mind, as we said in the Journeyman series, the knife is a great equalizer, but it's not God's gift to equalization. The bigger the knife, the less kickboxing-like and jiu-jitsu-like skills you need. The smaller the knife, the more support kickboxing and jiu-jitsu-like skills you need to survive. And so we have 1, and I stab. 2, I'm just pushing in and stabbing. 3, here I might push out. Now, the super knife experts will say, get a cut here. If you can, good for you. Don't be anal retentive about it or be mad if you missed it. I like to explain it, but even if you got a fantastic cut, he'd still have 20 seconds of a death message wired in his body to come get you. So get it if you can. It's good to show. And then here, I push in or I slap in and I stab. Turn slightly this way. So here's one where I push out. Boom, I may try to push out. 3, out. Boom. This side, real good for that, So that is just any of the 4 P's. Just clear a path so that you can complete the attack. We always finish up our counters to common blocks by a collection of the previous ones, someone who is armed. These are just isolated skill drills, and now we take a look at 2 obstructions, instead of just that first level 1. And when doing so, you almost always, if not always, need 2 of the 3 tricks you just learned. One of those big 3 have to be put together with another one to defeat a second layer, or if the guy happens to be armed, And we always like to finish up with just showing 1 or 2, but the combinations are infinite. And this is just the skeletal structure to inspire you. We say we're here to inspire, not confine. And these are things back in your classes that you can, develop and work on. Here we have a guy, he's got a saber grip, and he can have a reverse grip. As I attack, this arm begins to come out reflexively to stop it. Many militaries are taught the sacrifice arm just for this reason, and I don't believe in it. But nonetheless, the enemy that you face will often throw out their up-front arm in an effort to come in and attack you the rest of the way. I say my motto is sacrifice shit. However, I'm not sacrificing any fucking thing. But they teach you this. And I disagree with it, but they teach it. And so, but at the same token, we have the knife Congress minimization of wounds theory, where if you're going to get stabbed in the throat, it's better to be stabbed in the forearm because you're minimizing wounds. Now that makes sense as an act of desperation. That's a position of retreat, not standard operating, a policy, is to just throw this out. But here's the situation. I'll come in, and now I'll redirect on another line as this knife is going to come reflexively and smartly to, like our Spartan drill, hit this weapon burning limb. Here, I do a knife trapping hand, the second of 3, and I'll try to come in. Death grip here, take out the plumbing, whatever follow-up. These are eventually you can develop in the combat scenarios in your classes, Let's just take a look at this again. I'm coming in, and I said, damn, I got a blast. I redirect on another line. Here, this comes in, boom. Redirection and a trapping hand mode. If I was out here, for example, and I'm in a reverse grip, that's the study that we're doing today. As I come in, I see that I'm going to get him. His arm and knife is going to try to stop me. I redirect on another line, knife trapping hand to try to pass it out. Then you can go a little bit deeper. This hand catches me. To see what I got here, because I'm a grabby sumbitch in a knife fight. Passy, bullshitty. You only pass, as you'll see in a second, as an act of desperation when you couldn't catch. So as soon as I get in there, the old claws start to work, as his did, reflexively. I catch. I do a joint lock release, and then we'll come in and get them. So, any number of things. First do them in slow motion, and then progress it to a little bit faster, you'll find you'll need 2, sometimes 3 of the counters to common blocks to work in and be successful. The next thing in the study of reverse grip we encourage everybody to do is going to be taking some flow drill practice, skill developing drills. Do not overemphasize skill developing drills. They are part and parcel of a bigger training program. We want to become fighting experts, not drill experts. And so we have to do skill developing drills, but put them in proper perspective with everything else. Now, out of this one, commonly taught all over the world, I've seen a Chinese sword drill like this, a short sword drill. I've seen it in the Filipino systems. I've seen it in French, English, knife fighting, and Spanish knife fighting. So interconnected. Remember what we say about the essence of combat. When you see all the systems and extract the essence of combat, that is capturing lightning in a jar. And that is the foundation. People often ask me, well, what's your foundation? They expect me to say some kind of karate name or some Filipino name. My answer is the essence of combat. And when you capture the essence of combat, it begins to look like other systems. Looks like this sometimes, looks like that sometimes. It looks like the best of what these other people are doing. And so, he's going to give me this downward slash, and I'm going to reflexively try to pass it over. And get it deflected, get it out of the way. I give it back to him, and out of this drill, many tactics and techniques. Some will show here, some you've got to go back and invent, in your classes and practice, that you can pick up out of the motion of flow. I would like to say one thing that is often very, very forgotten when doing this drill is, what we'd like to try to acquire in this is not a death grip. That would be an introduction or an insert. To introduction to another tactic or an insert here that you would change it. But what I'd like for you to do, and what I'd like for your partner to alert you about, is to feel some type of grip. It's not just a slap, but you see there's tension in there that is good for you to practice. He gives it to me, he passes it down, and you see, I want to feel that. And in many ways, when you go up against the expert people and you do this particular drill, they'll tell how mature you are by this touch. If it's not good, if it's just some kind of weak thing, somebody didn't teach it right, And so we're here and we're moving around, and just one of the many topics that and tactics you can do is I'll catch pretty good. Maybe bury this knife into the bend of the arm, with a little sawing action, shoot through, and get a rear arm bar hammer lock. And you can, in your practice, turn this into a combat scenario, whatever. There's a good stab. This edge of the knife is sharp. If it's not, I'll become edge aware. I have a control and containment threat position, or I can, kill him. I can kick him behind the knee, and take him down to the ground. Many, many different things. And there are counters to this. Beware, in other videos, in other training sessions, we study package this in knife fighting. But right now, I'm just showing you the windmill drill. American name for the many, many variations. And of course, you must move while you're doing it. You see, what happens too is that people practice these drills in this stationary position. That's kind of like you're learning the drill is elementary school. Getting the drill going is sort of high school. College is doing it in motion. And every drill has to be done in motion, side to side, forward and back, on the ground. It all has to be done here. And so just standing here and doing the drill isn't as good as moving a little bit or charging on occasion, And then you'll really know when you can get this arm bar. Maybe a death shot right here. Control. I can kick behind the knee to take him down. And then, you can have so many, I'm up, I'm ready. Break his ankle, anything like that. So let's do the windmill, and let's try to get the arm bar.
Here is a lefty versus righty version of the windmill drill. And a lefty will have to problem solve the arm bar. In Notice the hand switch of the knife and the good takedown. 15% of the population or so is left-handed. 15% of your training should be lefty versus righty. Always takes a little adaptation to pull it off.
Just as a quick review that is covered extensively in our hand-to-hand combat course is going to be the fact that when you do the arm bar, the rear arm bar or arm bar hammerlock, as it relates to a knife too, is when you catch a person up here, it's not that good. It's good when you're in class with a complying training partner who bends over on cue. But as a comp, I've tried to do this against real people, and it's hard to defeat the torso muscles. Catching your palm on the tricep is a little bit better, and it takes away some of that torso control. And of course, if you will have to problem solve, as I've seen as a cop many times, and go straight to a pretty devastating throw because this ain't working for you, you know. So the optimum way is down here on the elbow, and that's a really good lever to work with on the skeletal system. So here, pretty worthless. Here, a little bit better. Here, way better. But we talk about that extensively in the hand-to-hand combat course. Now, we've been doing this windmill, and there are many inserts that you can do off of this. One of the other major taught flow drills is going to be something I call the chainsaw. Look at the rotation. Just let me step back and let people see what that looks like, the rotation. Thumb on the pommel, maybe? Maybe not. And so out of the windmill drill, you can convert over to, we'll circle, you can convert over to this chainsaw. Just my name for it. Other systems call it different things. Again, we practice some type of grip if possible. Not a complete one. Don't destroy the motion, but feel tension in there, you know? And then one of the major inserts that we'll show from here are many that you can make. I mean, you can go straight to here and do the rear arm bar again. But we're working. I catch this hand and stab. This arm, I hope, will be a barrier to prevent that knife from coming in. Let's just turn a little bit toward the camera right here. Now, if you didn't have a knife, you know, I would maybe hook here and do some sort of wheel throw. But instead, I might stab, step back, and punch into this elbow, which is not going to be easy. These side arm bars are also very difficult to do in real life. Muscle system comes in to protect the joint. The shoulder rolls, the body moves. So it's got to be done quickly, efficiently. But I could use the blade or my fist, but I usually pick something in the middle so I have, you know, some safety net on either side and, you know, and just ram downward. Slowly, you can start at the windmill, go to this chainsaw drill, and then the squeeze right there. This is what I'm keying on, this particular grip. I'm starting already to get away from this knife. I reach in, push, pull, and drive that home into the solar plexus or the stomach or whatever you get, you know. And then try that, you know, that plucking attack or whatever. If, for example, I bury that knife into his body and I can't get it out and he's still got a knife, and then I'll just let go of it. You know, and for the 2 or 3 seconds, I hope I can beat him, you know, and then get the knife later. But if not, you know, I'll come into the soft tissue of the stomach, rip, and then hammer into here to try to take him down. This landed well. He's landed on his knife, and perhaps I can finish him, pretty easily with a couple of stomp kicks to the head and knife attacks. The stomp kick to the head at this point is probably better than the knife because he might survive several slashes and stabs, you know, and have some life left in him, but this may just knock him unconscious. So the hardcore stomp kick, even though you have a knife in your hand, may be a better choice. Another flow drill, remember we're studying the reverse grip, and these are skill-developing drills, the foundation for which you to have command and mastery of this weapon in many different ways. And we have the block, pass, and pin drill that's done by so many in Hawaiian karate, Filipino martial arts, some Chinese systems. It's an inside, you know, we have flow drills to the outside, flow drills to the inside. This is a close quarter maneuver, and I just want to show you for this tape a series of things. I want to cram as much in as I can, and if I explain every one of them, we'll never get all the tactics in that I want. So I'll just briefly show them to you. There's block, you know, pass, pin. He blocks, pass, pins. Block, I come on underneath, do the underarm takedown. Here's another one, why people like to have the edge in, so very common. Block, pass, you see, pin, block, pass to a wrist pinch, pin, cut the throat. We're hoping that that part is sharp. But a lot of people base their whole theory of the real knife fighters using a reverse grip, on this wrist pin, either this way or this way. And this is like one tiny thing that can happen in an entire chaotic selection of things. And so this is just one reason that you might use that reverse grip to come up and cut. Then we'll take a look at another famous one. Some people call the neck lever takedown. Real quickly for you, I'll show you the trapping set in which we're here. The first one gets through to the throat, takes out the plumbing, hits the hand. The next one gets stopped halfway. Keep going. Gets stopped halfway. I do a forearm elbow strike or forearm strike to here, clear this out into the throat, take out the plumbing. And I always want you to come back and stab the hand. People say, well, that's a pretty small target. If you think of hammer fisting the hand and you have a knife in it, it'll help you instinctively, like point shooting, catch that strike right there. The third one, heel grab. Joint lock release, throat, strike. And then the fourth one, we like to show gets, he passes all the way through, I cut and strike. Slowly, we'll turn it over this way and do it. The first one gets through. Strike the hand. The second one gets blocked halfway. The third one gets grabbed. Joint lock release, cut, stab. The fourth one, he overblocks. And then that's a little outside invasion trapping hand series set, invading knives set that I like for people to practice pretty regularly. And then another one, we'll turn this way, out of this pass pin block drill is what we did in the prior journeyman videos, is the saber, half-beat saber slash. This time it's going to be a stab. We're here. I stab the arm, stab the upper arm, stab the throat. In the half beat, here's beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, beat 5, beat 6, beat 1, 1.5. Now, it's less than lethal, and it's just for your target acquisition practice and speed. Boom, go through the pattern. Here's 1, 1.5, 1, 1.5. And you could, go on from there. One, you can come over here, pin and stab, and you're doing the invading set again, too. But see, the idea is to inspire you to do a lot of drills, skill drills out of this. And then, when you get that going, you've got to be able to move with it, and deal with the rush. And to be able to deal with it in motion. It's the next step. It's not just sitting on the bicycle. Suddenly you're having to ride the bicycle.
Not only should the drill be done starting in person, one knee up, one knee down, but also outside the body.
What we like to cover now is what I like to call the kill shot, or the fencing dueling module. And fencing and dueling in terms of knife fighting is a range disproportionately taught in knife fighting courses. Because in real-world combat, the Sheriff of Nottingham versus Robin Hood duel standoff, really doesn't occur that much. It can, therefore we must study it, but it really doesn't happen as much as people train it. We have to understand that knives are pulled in close quarters with arms upon each other. They're knives quick drawn and pulled in the middle of ground fights. All these possibilities are more likely to happen than two guys facing each other. When two guys face each other with a knife, the situation is that they have to either be crazy or they have to be very passionate and in a rage. And I worked a case several years ago where two sisters fought each other in the kitchen at a Thanksgiving holiday. One was 30-something, the other was 20-something. They had their family feud, and they were preparing dinner, and then they got mad and they started a knife fight in the kitchen. Cut themselves up pretty good, but you see the passion involved in that. 22 years of hatred in a family feud, and of Nottingham and Robin Hood squaring off. So, and then you need, of course, the mission. If you're in a military situation or whatever, and you have to square off against somebody, you could be at a store with your kids and a guy has his knife out, or a restaurant. They take away our knives, then you get on a plane and they give you one to eat. Or you go into a restaurant, they don't want you to carry a knife, but there beside your plate is a knife. Knives are found everywhere. And you may be in a situation where, your kids or your mother or your wife is there or whatever, and you can't run, and a crazy guy's there, and part of the fight looks like the Robin Hood versus Sheriff of Nottingham standoff. So if you just place it in its, this proper order, we have to study it, but it is indeed a problem least likely to occur compared to these other more realistic predicaments. When in that Sheriff of Nottingham situation, we have to worry about terrain. Very rarely is there 15 or 20 feet of flat land. Even parking lots have parking barriers and concrete slabs and things like this. So we have to worry about the ground we cover, tripping over furniture and stumps and all kinds of things that it prohibits the general fencing style thing. If you talk about fighting stances, this is where I would like to mention this. The smaller the knife, oftentimes you might get away with this arm-up stance, because if you have a jacket on or whatever, you might be able to take that and move in. But if the knife back stance were so smart, it would be taught by Olympic fencing people. It would have been taught by the Roman legionnaires and the Spartans, and it's not smart. Men with swords fight with the weapon up front, and that's just the way it goes. And as I told the U.S. Marines when I was teaching once, if you put 50 American soldiers in a room, and they're all standing knife back, and you put another 50 Asian or Indonesian soldiers in a room with a knife, and they all stand knife up, pretty quickly about 46 or 47 American forearms are going to hit the floor. And this idea just doesn't work. Too often we forget who we're fighting. Back in the 20s and 30s, when the Marines were engaged in prior years fighting enemy like that, they were all knife up. Through time, it's back to this point. We hope to change that, but a lot of military systems fight back. So the reason it's not very good in many ways is because if he's here, I have to traverse like a cross punch. My body has to cover the distance, from shoulder to shoulder, and then the space to the enemy. Whereas here, it's not that way. And so from just a philosophical standpoint, the knife up is quicker to use and get out of the way than it is to traverse my body and then the space, And thanks. And the other thing is, folks, in reality, you're standing here, a guy takes a swing at you, you step back, and now you're in the knife back stance anyway. Why? Let's not get too anal retentive about it. You can't fight the whole fight in this position. The same thing with boxing. You have to be able to fight from all different stances, and all that in the chaos of combat will change. So I really don't get on a real speech about always being like this, because you won't always be like this. You'll miss and come out, and all of a sudden now you're knife back. The fighting stance is truly about balance in motion. Stick knife, gun, empty hand. It's about maintaining your balance in motion. That is the essence of fighting stance. Now, one of the main things I like to show when we do this type of work is in kill shot training, we emphasize vital parts, and we try to get those vital parts. Obviously, striking the weapon-bearing limb viciously is a major thing.
as old as Egyptian hieroglyphics and the Spartans, and it goes way, way, way back. The throat, the face area, we have to always consider the clothing. Can you cut through certain clothing? The program of always hitting the weapon-bearing limb, then it's wintertime. Guys got a parka on. And it kind of ruins your muscle memory that's overemphasizing this. But basically exposed area of the body in almost most clothing, the throat, the face, the weapon-bearing limb. Other cuts, may or may not count right away. That's why I always say, as we've said earlier, that you need support fighting skills. Kicking, hand striking. The bigger the knife, the less you need. The smaller the knife, the more you need. So our kill shot training is about, especially when we practice, is about hitting those vital areas. These are just diminishments maybe. If you get the guy on the shoulder, get him, but it's not over. It's far from being over. Even if you slit a person's throat and he doesn't see his wound and he is pumping out, he still may have, medical experts think 15 to 22 seconds or something like this where he can still kill you. So we still have to watch out for that. And you so often see many martial arts systems, we'll switch knives. They end the combat scenario this way. They have an impact, the knife drops, and this is how they finish. That's bullshit. That's nothing. That's chicken scratch. That's just slicing up the guy's arm, as opposed to you get the weapon disarmed, boom, like we do in the Spartan fighting module, where you really come in and devastate key kill shot spots, But you'll see a lot of martial artists, you get it disarmed or whatever, and they give you this sort of slap catch, little dancing, pussy, multi-slap, and they walk away. Well, okay, that's done. That scenario's done. It ain't done. It ain't over till the man is on his fucking back. Then the scenario begins to be over. You got to put him down. You cut his throat, he's still up, he's still fighting. You still have to put him down or run 22 seconds worth of time away until he pumps out. I've worked a few murders where single stabs to the heart have killed people. They're rare. Even small ones. I've worked a few stabs through the eyeball has also killed some people. Rather instantaneously, but you can't count on that. You have to be prepared. So what I'd like to show you then, is going to be a very quick and effective way to teach strategies in dueling. Now we've all been exposed to the 12 angles of attack. Well, this is the half-beat fake, or the fake 12. And if I'm here in a very comfortable stance, I'll fake on one and strike two. I'll fake on one and step off, usually because we're taking up space, and strike at three. I'll fake on one and strike at four. Fake on one, strike five. And so it goes, all the way down, and to infinity. Fake on five, step and strike on one. Fake on five, step and strike on eight. You can go by the numbers. You can teach, as I have, from a platform, hundreds of people how to fake with a stick and a knife using this numerical scientific method. Here is a manipulation drill that is crucial to your practice. I'm in a comfortable stance, he's in a comfortable stance, and now I fake on one, and your training partner will help you. He will respond in the most common way. So the block will go up here. I fake on one, I step and strike on two. Then I'm going to use this is developing the number one as a primary. I fake on one, I strike at three. I fake on one, I strike at four. I fake on one, stab. Fake on one, stab. Fake on one, stab. You see, and you go through the 12 with a partner. He very carefully trains you and gives you the proper responses. The combinations are quite infinite. You can fake on 12, strike 5, and go on from there. But nonetheless, the key to dueling is mastering and becoming more and more efficient with these types of fake and strike drills. Okay, what we're going to do is take a look at some of the kill shot material. Again, remember targets are important, and we're going to have a coach with each group to try to break up and determine what shots were worth anything and better help you form your strategy. The idea, when kickboxers do this, they tend to charge in, exchange blows, and kill each other. It's just their muscle memory. They can't help themselves. But typically when fencers do this, they get in and they get out. They get in, they kill or maim, and they get back out again. Martial artists and kickboxers get in, mix it up, both usually die. So what we need to do is figure out ways, using these drills that we developed, to get in and get out. So that you get the idea of this here. If we're fighting and I hit that arm, you heard that sound? Right there, a key spot. The judge breaks it up, and then he makes the victim switch hands. This is a gift, because he'd ordinarily be unarmed, you know? And so then we move around again, and if I get this other hand, the judge, but now he's unarmed versus the knife. Now, where possible, we would often put a 5-pound weight on the injured wrist or the injured leg on the ankle, just to simulate a sudden swelling and an inability to use and a heftiness, you know, that it brings that much more reality in there. But if you can get in, if you can get a throat shot, and everybody should be wearing some protective stuff, certainly eye protection. But if you get a throat shot in there and get in to get away successfully, the judge can call it as a kill shot. If I get a throat shot and he gets on the way out, he stabs me in the throat, both die, nobody wins. And this builds a strategy that you lose in sparring, stick sparring or knife sparring. And so that's a progression that you could use in the kill shot. We're standing here, we hit the weapon-bearing limb, the judge breaks it up, they switch hands. This continues again. Maybe remember low-line kicks, some of you know, can work pretty good. If I kick low and he cuts me across the thigh, or even just gets a thigh shot in, the judge may stop it, put an ankle weight on your ankle. And so now adrenaline will cover some of the pain. And so you can fight for a while sometimes with that heavy, swollen feeling that the pain hasn't really set in yet, you know. And then if we hit this side, break, no knife, then it's unarmed versus the knife. I've seen people with 2 wrist weights on, 2 ankle weights, unarmed versus the knife guy, and still win. Because he's caught the weapon-bearing limb and beats the opponent hits the helmet so many times, the judge says he's out, you won. So it's a very realistic progression that you can use. Here, the viewer will get an opportunity to test their reflex and understand what we're talking about with these half-beat fake drills, you know. If I fake on 2, I step and strike on 1. And you can see where your reflex would want to do something with your knife or even your empty hand to protect yourself against this angle coming in. So I fake on 2, strike on 1. Fake on 2, strike 2. Fake on 2, efficiently come in, and 3. Notice the very vital and important step in and get out. The fencer, the swordsman, may at times do this. Fake on 2, strike 4. Fake on 2, step and strike for 5. Fake on 2, 6. Fake on 2, 7. Fake on 2, the thigh. Fake on 2, the other thigh. Fake on 2, hook to the eye. Fake on 2, hook to the other eye. Fake on 2, and 12 straight down. Just to give you an example of what you might have to deal with and see how the reflexes go. Outstanding drill. Work the entire combinations. fake on 5, strike 1, work down the line. Tradesman level 5, our command and mastery drill, is the saber stab. The same 10 angles as the reverse grip stab. I'm in a comfortable stance. I stab and stab for the too high. I stab and stab for the too low. And follow me down, because I stab and I stab for the too real low. Unlucky 7. This is a power shot. I call it the military power stab. 8 hooks down. 9 and 10. Let me do it to you at the side here. Here's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Unlucky 7 for the Nazi. 8 are hooking down. 9 and then 10. And you must do this as we previously done, both right and left-handed, on your back, and also walking forward, just like the format that we discussed in level 4. Next segment of the level 5 is going to be pass and fight on. Now, if you've been following us through prior levels, you know that our main strategy in one-on versus knife is going to be trying to get a weapon better than another. It's a little bit of evasion work involved. Sometimes if you're not alert meditators in the street fighting module. But right now, we are going to learn the secondary or sometimes tertiary skills of passing the knife, And passing is a shoveling or ringing in a collapse of energy in a pass. There's two major ways. But what I'd like to do is develop and show an old Filipino drill that has a lot of skill developing and a great many inserts. The trainer will take a saber stab, which is what we work on this level, and he apply hooks in. It will be met by opposition. At this point, he is going to turn the knife edge and slash down. Then he comes over here, high hooks in at this point, then turns the edge in and slashes down. Now the thing is that it has a little bit of training for the trainer, because he is stabbing and slashing, and you will be, as a trainee, will be intercepting and passing, intercepting and passing. So we'll have our stuntman expert come out. Now the thing is that you've got to maintain a constant pressure upon your trainee. And so here comes this high hook stab, I stop. A lot of times people will use the back of the forearm because this is more damage than there's a cut. And so as I flex this here, you can give you an idea of who's first of all slashing. So my hand stays down there right about here. The bad guy, as soon as he can, comes back. You see constant pressure. In which case, as I pass, I have to pick this up here. Now, then I immediately get out of the way, and then right here, here it comes, and I pick it up over here. And I pass, and pick it up over here. This is a classic passing skill developing drill that is too often taught and overemphasized as one of the main things to do, or the only things to do, when you know from our studies that it's a secondary or tertiary strategy, a third level strategy to pass the knife only when you've missed it. And can't catch it, you've got to do something with it. I pass. Now the thing about it is, we'll be doing inserts in here, but you must keep this constant pressure, and then later, once you get back, you have to move with it. He starts to step in, because we know that we have to be able to do this drill, because that's what the real knife fight's going to be about. As I'm stabbing him, he crosses over and stops it. your trainee must feel the constant pressure in. Right about here, you say, dude, don't get cavalier about this. Make sure you pick it up, because I am constantly giving him forward pressure. And that's a very important part of the drill. I try to slash, I stab, I try to slash, I stab, I try to slash, I stab, and he picks up this motion. And then the trainer will begin to move. And he needs to pick up. We'll be inserting this. But that's the foundation. The trainee blocks, passes a piece of it, and he does these motions. One of the first knife drills I was taught back in the 1980s, and against a real knife. And I was crazy enough to come up and use a real knife, so we learned right away how dangerous it might be. Let's see if we can do that, and then we'll add a couple of inserts to it. Okay, so we have the basic foundation. You have the catch, the steady pressure, and the slash. And now we need to take a look at some of these inserts. Good constant contact. As I pass, I eye-tab. So you're kind of eye-tabbing on the hefty. Here comes the high stab. I intercept as I look at the arm shape that helps protect you. Again, if we were like this, we'll just throw out some theory. If we were doing it like this against the knife, he might get the idea all he's got to do is retract. And that's another part of the drill, but it's safer when as one of my Aikido instructors will say, that's the softest meat in the world, the belly of the snake. And it's easily cut. So here, as I pass in this bent configuration to maximize protection, here comes the spread finger slightly bent eye-tab. And I'm happy to come back, eye-tab. And you can always tap your partner on the top of the head, but I do it in such a manner as to not like this or like this, where if I jam my fingers, they could be, hurt. And so this ability to have me go is an important aspect of the many other follow-ups we're going to do. Super slow motion, we've done this right here, super slow motion. He's got a high stab. Look at the bend configuration that I'm using. And here comes the slash. As I go, I tap. Look, I try to see the difference between doing this and trying to glue yourself to this arm to pass it and go. And you work the configuration out that you need to get the job done. So the first insert we'll try is going to be this eye tab. Make sure it comes up, high. It's a high stab, a slash, and a high stab, and then a slash. Then he gives me a high stab, move. Here's the first. Get that out. We have to do this drill movement. Okay, so now we have developed the insert skill, getting that half-beat insert in there. Then this time, I just call this a punch series of 3. I punch, I check his punch, he punches, Same, but the first one, when I punch, is very identical to my eye check. He's slashing, he slashes, he stabs, he slashes. Right here, I punch. Or over here, I punch. And remember, my favorite custom-made trump shots, loaded the face. And so instead of me, eye-jabbing, I am going to punch. Let's just see if we can do anything. I'm just punching. Now, so you practice the punch. Now, the next thing is, as you're passing the blade, you're making a decision. Should I punch? Should I eye-jab? What about that fist he's got up? And so I like to put in a check hand here. We're here as he's coming in as a check. And you can do these real slow checks. So to speak, half-beat check. Half-beat check. Half-beat check. On the outside, half-beat check. I'm going to slap on the side of it. On that side is a frontal catch, And so we have half-beat checks. If this is up here, like many sport fighters slap his fist into his face, slap that fist into his face. So it's a check of that other hand. And it's a good reason to be able to do this one-handed, because you can do it two-handed. You can do this about 35 different ways. And we're just hitting the highlights of them. And now the other one is, we do this real slow. His fist is up. As I catch this and I pass, he's going to punch, and I pass the punch. I come back to here, he comes over here, he can punch it again. But we cocks it. What I'm going to ask you to do, what him to do, is every once in a while, he's going to throw that punch. You see, and I have to be ready for it either way. Let's do it real slow. Here's our real pass, and I'm going to throw it in before we go. Right here, I think about it now. As this is coming, as soon as here comes this punch, pass it out, or I can pass it in. Pick this up, and he kind of recocks it. My hand is now going to be ready. Here comes this punch again, and I pass. And then sometimes this comes in, and maybe you can practice that. This comes in, as I pass it, in slow motion, just go real slow right here. Here comes this punch, which I pass over. Now look at what I do. I just turn from my back hands to my palms. Some might think, what an opportune time for a headbutt, but you know that headbutts are dangerous. Concussions are numbing no matter what side part of the head you use. You could stun or knock yourself out no matter what part of your head you use. So, you have to judge whether you want to do that or not. But look what I got right here. A little help with the legs. And you have some kind of finish which you can do. So, the series, the first one, I can punch. The next one, I check this hand, I check that hand, I check that hand, I check that hand, And then the next one, he punches at me and I pass it. He punches at me, I pass it over and I catch this. And do some type of takedown. And then needless to say, you must be able to do this. Check. No, you have to be able to do it walking forward and sideways. Another one in the passing series, and in the big picture, if he gives me a high step and I miss, you see, that's what this is all about. I've missed the grab, and so now I'm going to try to get rid of it, but he's still very aggressive about it, And so I cross over, and I cross over, and I cross over, and then right here, I go right, I grab. Watch this slowly again. I'll come in real slow, and so my package goes right up to here, and I grab. And then I want to take this and twist the palm down onto the ground as quickly and as violently and as suddenly as I can. And as efficient. Now, at this point here, you've got the, you can stun him, and then after we stun him, do a knife disarm. A push-pull or a peel. A push-pull is kind of a cavalier catching of the knife. Let's just stand up for a second and we'll use this metal knife. A push-pull, there's several different disarms. Impact disarms, verbal disarms. Let go of that knife, right? There are verbal disarms, and then there are push-pull disarms and wrist attack disarms. But a push-pull, cavalier base push-pull is just going to be where I don't grab the edge of the knife, but I push it to the point where I can safely grab the edge and not get cut, as opposed to this, and then something like this. And then the peel is after you've stunned him a little bit, you sort of go into the grip here, and you sort of peel the knife out, and you acquire it by the handle, sort of like this, you see. And so if I cut it, and what they'll typically do, if you strike a guy and stun him and the grip is loose, hammer here, you peel this out and go right to the stab, and peel this out and go right to the stab, as opposed to the caveman strip and keep, really, but they're push-pulls, because you're pulling in on one side and pushing the other. And on the inside, it's kind of, you can do pretty much the same thing. I'll turn around this way here. You can see I'm slowly acquiring the handle, as opposed to going like this.
try to catch the weapon-bearing limb. If we can't catch it, we try to pass it or, evade it. And so it comes in, as soon as I can, I try to catch it. I kick, I strike, any takedown. We're back to the basic hardcore responses again. We catch, we kick the hell out of them, we knock the hell out of them, we use any takedown, and we're back to these things. Taking out the knife, this one, whatever. So this is it's important thing to remember is the modules overlap each other. Many of the techniques that appear in one appear in the other, and philosophies overlap. So now we're kind of using this flow drill and back into the do or die unarmed versus the knife situation again. Big picture all comes together in the end because many of the modules overlap. I pass, I catch, rather than a takedown right away. Here is doing, I kick it with everything that I have, I strike with everything that I have, and then I take him down somehow. Of course, we have hybrid things that I want you to invent. The expression, we are here to inspire, not confine. We're coming in here. There are many different things that you can do that, off of the pass. We hope that you can get that, really work on that eye jab, because that eye jab sets up a whole lot, so you can invent things off of this pass. But let me just show you how, one might be able to do this with a knife. Here's the function, the passing hand. Here is the free hand picks it up. Maybe you can get a little cut here if possible. And you pass her up, knife picks it up, knife picks it up. And then, of course, don't forget you have to move while you're doing this. These things mean a little standing still locked in, but rather moving, being able to move. If it gets a little, getting down tight, stationary, and if it moves and it gets a little sloppy, I got a big surprise for you. Fighting is a sloppy thing. And the thing about it, when you guys are battling each other, the only reason the battle is so hard is because you're simulating your stunning shot to the head or the face or whatever. If you lay one into them, the diminished fighter theory comes in, and you're better than you think you are because you're wrestling with your friend and he's fully alert, and you can't really knock the hell out of him. So if you get that kill shot in, that strike, it becomes diminished. You'll be surprised how much better you actually are at doing these techniques. Some techniques can be done pretty darn good against somebody who's half-conscious. But we in classes in randuri style and so forth, and the word randuri is a great thing to mention, judo. That's why throws and takedowns are so hard in judo, because you never get to stun the guy. The old expression. All judo throws work after you break the guy's nose. Very true. So now, I'll let you know this one so I can have two. Well, here's a double knife version of this drill. He gives me a high stab and the blade comes in. This is a rubber blade, so we can't use it. I pass it down. Now look here. Cut, pass, cut, pass, cut, pass, cut. This is something I learned in the Philippines. It's this double knife version of this drill. Here, cut, cut. You see, and I'm just using, and that's a double knife versus single knife application. Pass, cut. I'd like to show in this part that we're doing the saber stabs, high stabs, medium stabs, low stabs. This number 7 doesn't just go into the lower intestines or the stomach or solar plexus, which it can, or up under the chin. It's a very deceptive, hard to follow stab that shoots up. Then you have this high hook, and then these lunges. Like this, they're very deceptive and very powerful. I like to equate it sometimes to boxing, because a typical boxing move to get you into
this stab position. If he throws one jab at me and I pass over, and another I pass over, he throws and I get this low body shot on it. As it comes out, it's dynamic. I duck, I charge in, and I deliver a terrible shot and can get out. I've done it, many thousands of others have done that shot. Now think of that with a knife. This is how that stab is thrust in. And I've seen this, but it took the Indonesian silat to make me understand that stab is terrible. It's devastating. Just like that. And with that same ferocity as that punch, you take that forward step and drop it in. And also, there are many drills that you can practice with your friends, but you need facial, you know. But he can have his hands up like this, and because his vision's hardly obstructed anyway. But the ability to stand up real quick, let's just say let him try to stop. So I know he can try to catch. It's very hard. You see, it's a this motion is extremely difficult, whether his eyes are obstructed or not. So if you have that commitment to deliver that power stab, it's devastating. And that's inside these 10 angles of stabbing. Level 6 tradesman commanded mastery drill is going to be the pommel strike. We've been doing a lot of stabbing, reverse and saber grip, and the pommel strike, the same 10 angles. This is the reverse grip one. We have a high, and a medium, and a medium, and a low, and a low. Unlucky 7 is still that power shot that comes up. 8 hooks down, 9, and then 10. We do it sideways. High, medium, low, unlucky 7, 8, 9, and then 10. This would have to be done through, right and left side, and also on the ground and walking, as the previous setups would be. Let's take a look at the other version. This time we're in a saber grip and we're doing pommel strikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, unlucky 7, 8, 9, and 10. We'll show it to you sideways. 1, 2, 3, 4. Saber grip pommel, there's going to be 5 and 6. Unlucky 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Again, as we first showed, they must be done both right-handed and left-handed. They must be done flat on your back, and they must be done walking. From these also are your basic block and counter drills that are in the beginning of this tape. These 10 angles, here's something that's vital. These 10 angles of the reverse grip or the saber grip also are important palm stick fighting techniques. And a palm stick, as it relates to knife fighting, is 7 out of every 10 knives that are not used in the kitchen in the world are used at their tactical folders that people have. And many times in combat, not only can you not get the blade of the knife into play, you can't get your tactical folder open because of the rush of combat. And so your combat folder becomes a palm stick. And that's why we do this way and this way, so that you also automatically get fighting palm stick tactics out of it too. And you can strike and then open up a different goal. And so that's a very important modern point. You acclimate yourself to these angles, and then you use them in palm stick fighting. And it represents the unopened tactical folder, which is quite a large possibility that we're having to use. And so we'll summarize the big three. The first one, well, you practice these either the reverse grip, palm strike, or the saber grip. He blocks high, I step up and cut. He blocks high, I cut, block, cut, block, and I cut. Then the second one that we always do is going to be redirect on the line.
redirect another line, redirect another line, redirect another line. And then the third and last one, knife invading hands, or commonly people refer to as knife trapping hands. I come in, utilizing the 4 P's, pinning, passing, pulling, or pushing of the opponent's knife. And I may strike again with the pommel, or I may decide that I need to, use the edge. And a lot of times the reverse grip in close-quarter combat is better than the reverse grip in long-range combat. You can stretch the same. You often get more from a saber blade, often. But when you're in close or on the ground, people should convert over many times to reverse grip, just like what you saw. Instructors, and the reverse grip is a pretty good thing to have in close quarter combat. So everybody do it. But there's a lot of tactics you can use in that regard. And so those are the big 3. Then finally, if we're practicing these, we should learn them as quickly as possible, and then try to move a little. Here's the 10. This is another aspect. Strike, cut. Strike, cut. Strike with the pommel, cut with the edge. Convert the edge into the combat with the ground. Strike, cut. Strike, cut. Same thing with here. Strike, cut. Strike, and cut. Many times we've taken a prisoner. Many times we discover that we have a knife in our hand versus an unarmed person, and then we can't kill him or use the edge of the knife. And so the pommel is a very good alternative to striking with the knife. This level covers the less than lethal tactics. And these are times when we must understand the use of deadly force and not use more force than necessary in finishing the enemy. And in knife versus knife encounters, that's a difficult thing. But if you find your knife in your hand and the subject is unarmed, if you kill him under certain circumstances, you can't. It's illegal. So we always say that we show our combat scenarios from first contact to kill, but you must morally, ethically, legally bail out of the progression at any time as is fit. And so how we judge these things often, is the totality of circumstances. What is the situation that you're in overall? How many people are there? Is it a high-crime neighborhood? Things that we talked about in the Street Fighter video very intensely. And then the totality of circumstances explains, to a reasonable and prudent person, the action that you've taken. In many countries, that's the judge or the jury. And they have got to be convinced that the action you took was proper. And so we have some combat scenarios that involve less than lethal. And we have some tactics and tips. The pommel strike is definitely an option. Targeting non-lethal areas is definitely an option. We're going to be doing some, earlier in our tradesman studies, we did the half-beat stab instead of the throat. We did it here in the arm. This is high up in the level because I wanted you to learn how to fight for your life first in the first 5 levels, and then when you've got skill and manipulation and target acquisition, then you can get a little fancy by using the weapons in different ways. And so also using the side of the knife, as an impact slapper. The side of the knife to push someone in grappling situations instead of, using the edge of the knife. Different things we'll show in a series of combat scenarios that build out these strategies. Here's a situation. I've got a tactical folder in my pocket, and a bad guy runs up, and I need to come straight there. Now, we have hand-to-hand combat solutions for this. Remember, in this position, the top of the feet, the groin is accessible, and that's the big self-defense. We'll turn those sideways this way. That's the big self-defense thing. Eyes, throat, groin, top of the feet. And these are very delicate bones down here in the feet. If you smash them just like the bones here across the hand, you can usually get a reaction. But at any rate, we're going to use our knife. I pull out my tactical folder, but I don't open it because I don't want you to direct the blade into your body, the direction of your body. If the guy moves a little bit, you're screwed. Even in chokes, guys got to choke. I don't want you up
trying to stab this guy's arm while he's moving around. And so I prefer to use the hard edge and let this knife simulate a closed tactical folder. And here I'm going to bash and bash and bash and bash on the fragile bones of his hand until I get a release. Which is just what I just did even with the soft knife. I've got these fingers, and now in this position. I may hit the stomp on the foot one or two times viciously, to get some action. And then I'm just going to rip out. In this case, I happen to get the same two fingers that popped open in the as I step out. Each of you will have a different situation when you get out. You can end it any way you want. Here's a real simple one right here. I'm going to take my pommel strike in angle one strike and hit him in the throat. Break this thing out of the head, jawline, something serious. So let's just take a look at this again. We have our possibly surprising act. He's got me here. I instinctively reach for my knife, but I'm not going to open it yet. Bam, bam, bam. I slap it. I step out. I smack. Hit him with the palm stick application of the tactical folder. If he doesn't go one down on the first strike, hit him a few more times. See what happens. And here's another combat scenario. Many times we've been doing these before. This is what I ask people to do when we do these, is pick some combat scenarios from the chain of the knife, in the clutches up, the Spartan drill, and just convert them over to less than lethal. Just do things like the different target acquisition and pommel strikes and so forth that relate to not killing the guy. And so here's a guy who gives me a high, and I was fortunate enough to catch it. I take out my knife, and then I'm going to form one right here or anywhere in the arm that is a diminishing spot. Then from here I'm going to take that pommel strike and strike the key area, the land, the jaw, the throat, something like this. So I plump, maybe not at this arm, I just diminish the breath, and then I'm striking here. This we did earlier in this video. So I hammer down into this edge. And then now I clutch down and let this sharp end of the knife and this sharp end of the knife cut out to get to further loosen his grip. And so what have I got with a knee drop here? I've got a guy, I'm killing you attacking me with deadly force, and I cut up his arm and disarm him. And people might say, well, why, who's trying to kill you, you could kill him. Well, that is true. And as a cop, I've had the opportunity to kill several people, and I didn't. Something told me I could get away with something else. It's always dangerous, but I had confidence, and I'm still alive today. I've taken pistols and shotguns and knives from people that I could have killed, who are, many of them, good folks, who just got a little crazy when they were 22 years old, about not 20 years ago, And if somebody needs killing, they need killing, and I'll be in line to do it. But if they don't need killing, I'm not going to do it, because we are the good guys, and we don't do these things, cavalierly. We're on the good side of things. Let's take another look at this. We're here. I pull out my knife, and I really plug him in here and strike. Look, I may need some help. He stopped here. Then I drop, cut loose, cut again, and then we have our knee drop on top of the head with this control measure right here. I may now, realistically, have to search him. I will cut the shoulder to see what he's got right there. Looking for knives, looking for other weapons, very important thing. At worst, I still haven't killed him yet, but I've disabled him, and maybe I'll let my troops come back, pick him up, and question him later where the enemy is. So we can see him put down, we're up, and we're up. In midair, catch, draw, pop, almost strike, drop down, rip that weapon bearing off even more free, and then we have to control. You have a knife. I want you to survive. I want you to cheat to survive. But if here's a surprise attack and an uppercut, which I block, as best I can, and then I turn into the rear arm back and block. Here not good, here better, here better, right? From here, I draw my knife out,
And this is a sharp, I may have to become edge-aware. I come around to the throat, and I use it for bargaining position, a threat. I will kill you if you don't lay down on the ground or you don't quit fighting, you see. And you're using this time your mind as a threat. But try to look at it this way. As you go through life as a civilian, as a soldier, or as a cop, looking for an excuse or an opportunity to kill somebody, you're fucking wrong. You're on the wrong side. That's not it. You don't go around through life looking for an opportunity to legitimately kill somebody or an excuse or an opportunity. You're fucking wrong. That's the wrong side of karma, the wrong side of the law. If you kill somebody, you had to kill somebody, and that's that, because you had to do it. But get on the fucking right side. Don't be some kind of idiot that, I can't wait to back my gun down. And the first time somebody messes up, I have an excuse, or I have an opportunity to kill him. That's the wrong fucking karma, you see. And that's where I want you to get your head on straight about this gun and knife and even hand-to-hand combat business. You just do what you got to do. And if you did right, you did right. You drink a toast every year to the death of that bad guy who didn't kill him. But you don't want to do the wrong thing. So here's this uppercut. I block it. I twist around, take out my blade. I become edge-aware if I'm on a single edge, and I'll come around and ever weary of the common counters, you see. There's a couple of them right here. Got good control here. Maybe I'll buckle this way a little bit. I'm going to precarious stand, which, you're telling them, okay. And you know what you might do? Order him. You can sound sadistic, slit your fucking throat. Your guts will fall out right in front of your eyes. Get down on your knees. Get down. Lay down. Lay down. See? That's why I'd like to see you end it. Look at how I got the pin on the arm. End it right there. Control it in this manner. Now comes your control and detainment moment, where you use ligatures or handcuffs or your belt or jackets or whatever to control it, or knock him out. Bang his head on the floor, but you had a knife and you didn't kill him. Less than lethal tactics. Now, what I want you to do is progress through many of the scenarios that we do and come up with less than lethal options that you can use in this format. The level 6 test asks for 6 combat scenarios. We've just done 3 to give you a couple of ideas, but it's your turn to start making them up, because that will make you remember and think and problem solve better. And so here's our uppercut. Attack. Roll into, take out the knife, the throat thread, got a good grip on it, make him go down to the thread, slowly on the knees, follow him down. And if he's smart, he'll feel that knife right there, and then you have our finish. Bam! You can finish him up.